This conference will now be recorded.
Everybody's here. Only one person's here right now, that's Kathy. And just to make it, anyone that speaks now at our meetings is gonna have to come up to the podium and give their name. And before they talk, we had some problems with the minutes. People were talking in the back, we didn't quite know who they were. Trying to do that, so we need to have them come up here and give their name so that we get the minutes correct. For those that don't know, Chelsea's going to be our liaison person here. So we'll pay attention to her while she's here. When she leaves, we'll talk real stuff. Moving to the minutes of July 13th. You've had copies of them. Any additions or corrections?
I didn't get a copy.
I didn't get it.
I don't think any of us got them.
I don't remember getting them either.
They weren't emailed either.
Nope.
Okay. Let me get, want to mention to,
Do you just want to push it to the next meeting, the approval of them?
yeah, I like to try to get them up. I don't know if Georgia has copies she can print out. We're a little mixed up because Georgia was off for about a week and a half and should get that. So if she get those, we'll come back to those. So we don't have, well, she makes copies of them. Okay. Okay, put that aside. At the last meeting, we approved 3 landscaping proposals. And because we were moving money from different line items, we should have voted on making the move, and we didn't. And the 3 proposals were the tree on Gemstone, replacing the lilies, and the other one of Mexican petunias along the sidewalks. And we had talked about those a couple different times, and it was for a total of $4,649. And to pay that, we were going to go from the utility landscape services line to the R&M landscaping services and move the money. So we have that. And I don't have my budget thing right on top of it. But I checked today, and I know we have the funds in there to do that. In fact, we have $45,000 in that one line item. We'll be using that several times today. And I think that's the line that we talked about that they were probably not using and they should have been, and they put it in another line item. So we have that money to work with today too. So we've already approved this, and only thing we need to do now is approve moving the funds, $4,649 from the utility landscape to the R&M other landscaping services on that. So do I hear a motion to do that?
I'll move.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second to move the funds from utility landscaping to the R&M line. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And we'll set that aside.
Warren, is there any way to consolidate those lines in next year's budget to make this a little easier to do?
I don't know. We'll have to wait till the budget comes out and see what happened and probably look at, we didn't do anything with it this year. We may want to try to take a look and make sure that that it's being properly put in the right category. So right now it's coming in handy on that. Okay. Set that aside so we can get that over to Laura. Next items on the agenda is landscaping workshop update and landscaping revised procedure. Do you have a report you want to make right now, Kathy?
Kathy Flaherty, the landscape
work group
Oh, okay.
chair. You should have that report.
Okay, okay.
Sorry. I did send it to Georgia.
Okay. Oh, here it is. Okay. Okay. One thing we need to discuss, we sent out in July, that's okay, this is, the board has to, before we get into this.
Okay, so you want me to sit back down and wait for you?
Okay, yeah. I didn't look to see that. Changing in the way we operate our landscaping. I sent you an email that come out from district concerning how they would like to move forward with landscaping procedures so we can perhaps expedite what we're doing. Did everybody get a copy of that?
Yeah.
Okay. The thing is we're trying to expedite as much as we can so we don't have a couple months between things and getting things done. And they're recommending that we designate a point person. And I think that point person should be someone from the committee. And work with perhaps the landscaping work group or whatever to get ideas and what needs to be done. And then bring those ideas back to the committee through the designated person, the point person. We would discuss them, send them to Jim Kennedy to review them and give us some recommendations, and then bring them back to the next meeting so we can vote on them and decide what we want to do on that. It's pretty well spelled out in the email that we received. This would keep the landscaping stuff within our committee until it's time to get proposals and get ideas directly from Jim Kennedy, who actually is the Gateway supervisor in charge, or he's in charge of landscape throughout the district. So I would add, if there's any questions or comments or.
So where does the HOA fit into all this?
Not too much other than recommendations that would come if they had a committee, a working group, that they would recommend things to the point person or through that group and to that one point person to do that. Most of the stuff that we're talking about is all the stuff within on Gateway's assets, those streets there, those kinds of things. But we still want to say, get some input. That's why I think we having a work group working with the one person from the committee, one of the committee members, so they could bring those ideas back in. We can't have two members on it because of sunshine law.
May I chime in?
But we can have one working with the work group so they can bring the ideas back to that.
May I chime in?
Yes.
Chelsea O'Reilly, District Manager. So Stoneybrook Advisory Committee seems to be going through the same process right now that the Pelican Preserve Advisory Committee is doing. And so we are working on setting up staff and the district attorney, setting up policies and procedures for establishing these subcommittees, or what you guys call as work groups. And this board would establish what exactly would be the purview of the landscape work group. We're working on setting up some documents and processes in place. Jane Doe of Stoneybrook could come and request, new plantings. It's not limited to only the HOA. These are public meetings, public forums. So if this board chooses to have a landscape subcommittee, that would be the means for the HOA or a resident or John Doe to go to make the request, vetted through the landscape subcommittee. Landscape subcommittee consensus makes a recommendation to this committee. This committee takes action on that. So in the next month or so, you will be seeing some of those resolutions and scopes that will need your feedback for your landscape subcommittee.
Okay. So you got any questions for Chelsea or comments they want to make? Do we have a volunteer to be a lead person for the landscaping group.
How often does Kathy's group meet?
Well, Kathy would be working with the lead person on this committee. She won't be working with Gateway Services, working with this committee.
Well, I get that, but how often, Kathy, do you guys meet?
We meet once a month.
Okay.
Wait a minute. I won't be going out. with-
Kathy,
Oh,
please sit close.
I won't be going out with Mainscape and Jim, so we can look at the stuff anymore?
No,
Okay,
No.
so there wouldn't be any way of knowing what needs to be
well,
fixed? I mean,
it'd just be recommendations through the point person to this committee to do that, and then it goes to them.
That doesn't make sense.
I'm sorry?
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah. That is the way that Gateway wants to start working it
Well,
now.
if
for
we
now.
had a point person, they would go with her.
Yeah.
Sorry, Kathy. I don't want to call you she or her.
that's all
But
right.
then
He
we
calls
go
it
with
her.
Kathy and Jim and look around,
Yeah, I mean,
she'd be the person.
I think they're trying to free up Jim's time. That's one of the things that they're trying to
but
do.
we pay for Jim. We pay a
We
good.
pay for a lot of things that we don't get some of that that
Right.
stuff. He does other stuff for us in doing that to make up that 5%.
I go out with Jim and Mainscape once a month for 1 hour, just to see what's going on.
It doesn't
Oh,
seem
you
like,
bring some?
it doesn't seem like it would be too difficult to just have a member
Yeah.
go with the existing setup. And that member could then be the connection to this group.
I would hesitate on making any of these decisions until you let staff come back to you guys with what we're proposing for this work group and the scope.
Okay,
Because I think that'll clarify a lot of these gray areas. And then
Okay.
that way, as a board, you can review the scope, say, okay, just like you all had to apply and were elected, subcommittees will have to do the same thing. This committee would review the subcommittee, make a recommendation to the board to have Jane, John Doe join landscape
Right.
subcommittee.
I know that Tony's coming back the next supervisors meeting with his review of the two advisory committees.
Yes.
Would there be more information at that time coming out that we would be?
Yes, we're gonna get you guys what, we're trying to have the same thing for Pelican that we've done with
Yes.
you all, so we're consistent. It would just be a matter of the scope that this committee wishes their landscape subcommittee
Okay.
to be purview
Okay.
to. And
So,
blanket statement, we only maintain gateway assets.
right,
Mhm.
okay.
What are gateway assets? How far do they extend?
Listen, if you can tell me,
I'm just curious, as we take a look along Gateway Boulevard coming in from 82, is that yours? Is that ours?
everything's different. Each location is different. We're looking and defining those areas.
Okay. Be nice to know before we spend money somewhere.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that we'll talk about later. That's one of the things that the committee has to do is watch to make sure that funds in the 04 fund is not being used to do things in other areas of Gateway. And I think that's important. So I think we'll just table this for now. No one has a problem until we see what some of the other directions going to be.
Will those procedures be done next month?
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah,
We're
the next
fine.
meeting, they're supposed to have, Tony, the attorney, is supposed to have some information and stuff. So,
But I mean, I'm talking about some of the procedures and some of the setups and things
Yes.
like
Yeah.
that. And we'll get
Okay.
that before the meeting so we can talk about it knowledgeably.
Your section won't be approved until you guys get input, until you guys give input.
Right, but we'll get an advanced copy of it.
Absolutely. It'll be on your next meeting's agenda. We didn't get it in time to make it for this
Okay,
meeting's
right.
agenda.
okay,
Be nice to review it before we come and meet. That's all
Yes,
I'm saying.
absolutely.
okay.
Great.
Okay, well, we'll table this and we'll have it on the agenda for the next meeting. And anything that comes in between now and then, like a lot of stuff, I'll try to get it out to you ahead of time so you don't have to come in and have to read it.
You'll send it to Georgia and Georgia will
Yeah, well,
distribute it.
yeah. They know the procedure. We'll get it out to you so you'll have a chance to review it and be ready for notes and stuff at that point in time. So, okay. Table that for now, and then Looking at the review that Kathy gave to us, I say we have one more proposal to look at. That's the mulch proposal. And I think some of this stuff is already, the tree on Gemstone is coming out. And I think with what we're doing now, I think we might put this aside for now too, until we get a little better stuff. Some of this stuff is already scheduled to be done, and that's what we passed those funds on today. So the only thing I think we need to move on today is the mulch. And we had two proposals, one for mulch and one for pine straw. And I talked to Jim. In fact, I jumped on again today to make sure we're still on the same page. He feels that the mulch will run off from where it's at a lot quicker than the pine straw, because the pine straw, once it gets together and dries up, it's going to stay pretty close. The mulch will keep coming off as long as it's just, pieces of stuff, more so than that. And he's recommending that we stay with the pine straw for now on the areas that we put the pine straw down. And that gives us a savings of about $3,200 to go with the pine straw than going with the mulch.
Is this in the budget, or do we have to move money?
The same thing, we're gonna have to move some money from the, where's my list here? Pine straw is 5628, and we'll move that from the same account, the utility fee landscaping services, to the, I want to say the R&M, R&M landscaping caption. And that'll be 5628 in doing that. And that would come from the same account. We have the funds in that account to do that. That's that $45,000 account that we can use on that. So, okay, any questions or comments or things on the mulch or the pine straw?
Have we decided?
No, we haven't decided. I just threw out what's been said and what I was able to find out from Jim Kennedy, who's the guy in charge of the landscaping.
Well, after hearing that, probably doesn't make a lot of sense to put down mulch that's gonna wash away.
Yeah, that's kind
I
of,
hadn't even thought about that, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
yeah. The mulch is little pieces, and then once the pine straw gets wet a couple times, it's gonna stick.
The water also passes through pine straw.
Yeah.
Doesn't take it with.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
once it gets
Yeah,
dry.
but when the mulch does wash away, then it creates a whole nother problem, because now it's loading up the catch basins.
Yeah, well,
And
if
the
the
water
motion
doesn't get
required, I'll
delayed.
make a motion that we go with the pine straw.
Okay, so I hear a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay.
Now you need a motion to move the money.
Oh, we need a motion to move the money from one to the other. Should have made that as part of the motion. Do I hear a motion to move the money from?
So moved.
So moved,
Second.
okay?
You better say it out loud so she can get it in the minutes.
I'm sorry?
You better say it out loud so she can get it into the minutes.
Motion by Dave to move the funds from the
From the two.
utility landscaping fees to the other up here. Oh, I got it written down here and I don't.
And yet,
To the R&M landscaping fund of $5,628. Motion to move and was approved on a vote to move those funds. Okay, everybody had a chance.
Wait a minute, you got a motion in a second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
that's okay.
Trying to get things here. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Do we want to hit the minutes now? Everybody had a chance to take a look at the minutes? Trying to rush through some more.
No problem. Can we have a couple of minutes just to take a look?
Yep. Good. Get us caught up here.
Chelsea, is that how it's going to be in the future? The minutes are going to be verbatim for what the public has to say? Or is that a way it's going to always be, just out of curiosity? Because I don't know. how-
I think that it's unusual, normally they don't put all that
Right.
information in.
Normally, it's a summary. I'm not sure if we had the same person doing these minutes or not, but normally it's a overview, brief
Okay.
overview.
Most of the minutes go over to Infomart to do
Yes,
that.
sir.
Yeah, they go on their coast.
Okay. I wasn't-
They could have had somebody else doing it and took it verbatim, which kudos to them.
Normally they're not. Don't have all those questions.
It was.
We hear a motion to approve, disapprove.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The one other thing we have in landscaping is, we forwarded you a copy of the RFP we had sent out to tree services to trim our hard oak, our hardwoods, and our palm trees. We've had one proposal come back. Right now, they're not due back until Friday next week on the 19th. We're doing 165 oaks and other hardwood trees and 265 oak trees this time. Costs have gone up, as you can imagine. We're still waiting. We had a pre-bid meeting yesterday and no one showed up, which not on you. It wasn't mandatory because all the people we sent it to know Stoneybrook very well as far as the trees, et cetera. They're all have been in and out of Stoneybrook to do that. So they have until next Friday at the close of business to submit that stuff. We're gonna have to move money from the unassigned group to the tree line, and I've got the numbers here somewhere again. So that we can pay for it. It's gonna be, I figure between $50,000 to $60,000 to trim all the trees. The palm trees will be pretty much what they've done in the past, cutting all the excess stuff out of them. The oak trees and stuff, they will be trimming them to standards set by Gateway, and everybody is part of the RFP. They've got to be 10 feet off the sidewalk, 15 feet off the road. We're going to try to move them back. We're going to try to cut. I talked to the one company. They're going to be cutting out around the light poles so we can get some of that light stuff out there and stuff, you know. And this company has done them before, so they're very familiar with what is going on. With it being due the 19th of August, and our meeting after that is not until September 10th, I think it is. 14th. I hate to see it sit for a month and us not do anything with it. what I'd like to propose is after the 19th, that we proceed with it using the low bidder at that time and put a cap right now of $60,000, of not to exceed $60,000. My plan would be we get it on Friday, Monday or Tuesday, we'll send out a recap to everybody on the committee so you know exactly where it's at and which company we'd be recommending. We don't know how many we're going to get. The company that already bid, I'm not sure they're high in some areas and stuff, but we have some other ones that may come in lower than that. But as I say, I hate to see it wait until the 14th. It's almost a month after we get the bids in to award the contract. Because the sooner we get it going, the sooner we get it on, get a purchase order to it, the sooner they'll get it scheduled. They won't schedule it until we have that. So what I would like to do is propose and open for discussion like this stuff is to move forward with this with the lowest bidder.
Lowest qualified bid.
I'm sorry? Lowest qualified bid, yeah. And the 4 companies that we send them to are all qualified.
I don't think you want to say lowest bidder. I think you want to say best value.
Okay, that's fine, yeah. And moving the funds from the unscheduled funds, which we have $229,000 in, over to the R&M other landscaping caption of the budget. So that those funds will be there after we select the one. And I will say after we send it out, after we get the bids in, I'm not going to do anything on it until I hear for about a week to give folks a time to comment back before we do that. You're going to say, I can tell. Go ahead, Chelsea.
So what we have implemented, just so you all are aware, and we failed to mention it in the email to you, my apologies. We cease, unless it's an absolute emergency, all purchase orders effective August 15th. So we don't issue any new purchase orders unless it's an absolute emergency after August 15th because we have to wrap up year end. So I know that throws a kink in your schedule here, but because we have to have the invoice and all the work done wrapping up year end. So
Okay.
you may wish, I mean, what did you say was the deadline next week?
19th.
The 19th?
Yeah, Friday, the 19th.
So it would be the intent to issue that purchase order with the blessing of this board.
About the 21st would be the.
I would say that would have to be your last purchase order.
Okay.
No purchase orders could be approved in the month of September. Just like I said, we're trying between
Okay.
the contractor performing the work and then attesting the work is complete, submitting invoice, and then payment. We're at end of fiscal.
Yeah.
So.
And we don't know when they can schedule it either. That would be the other thing would come up. So if we can do that, get a purchase order out on the 21st or 22nd, the Monday or Tuesday, that would work out for us because we can get it stuff put together and get it out. Because I can, if they're due on that Friday, I could say I could send it out, but I can't send. Well, I guess I could if I send it. I just got to go to everybody, and I've got everybody on the list. Now I got to send it through Georgia. Okay. First thing Monday morning, you'll have it on your desk. So because I can get it to Georgia over the weekend.
Maybe I can help. What is the intent? Is the intent to say we have a bid out right now?
Right.
Because you don't meet until mid-September and you want to act on that.
Right. Ahead of time.
You want approval from this board. I would recommend up to a certain threshold to go with the lowest qualified responsive bidder and authorize the chair or whomever to work through that purchase order. Is that what I'm trying?
Yes,
what I'm understanding?
That's what we're trying to accomplish.
Okay.
And I would say 60,000 would be the max.
If it's
because I know we're not going to go over that, but that would be the max. That would go.
Do you guys have a limit on your expenditures? Like I know from the district standpoint, I'm not allowed to sign anything over $30,000. It has to go to the board.
You know, and that, if that's the case, that's the other reason I was concerned, because if we could get it to the board at the first meeting in September.
We don't,
Yeah. That's it. I'm sorry, yeah. But I don't know how else we can do that. I hate to wait, well, I've put off almost a whole month, wouldn't we? Yeah. Because we can move, we have the funds there, it's our funds, we can move the funds. That should not be a problem, because it won't be, I'm pretty sure it won't be 60.
What's the hurry?
Huh?
What's the hurry?
Just to try to get it scheduled, get it done, and not having to wait a month after the bids are in or proposals are in, because there's a month between when they come in, and then we can't do anything in September anyway, on a purchase order.
Middle or end of October. before it can be done. Good trims before storms come is also
Yeah.
a thing to do,
Yeah,
which is sort of one of the reasons why I think we should give this some careful thought.
If those purchase orders come in before that, let's do it before. They will come in before the 19th.
but we have to give it till the 19th, close the bond.
But
They say the board won't.
the people that you sent it to,
entertain it in
if they get
September.
them in before the 19th, then we can act on it.
Well, we'll have a pretty good handle by then, because last time we did this with the proposal, we had them in there up to maybe 2 or 3 days ahead of time at the most. And there's only 4, maybe 5 vendors that we look to that may put in, may not be anybody else, just the one that we have right now.
When do they meet again? I'm sorry, when does the board, the supervisor meet again?
August 18th. And then just so this board is aware, I requested the Board of Supervisors if we could cancel the September meetings. They entertained it. They said, we're going to keep them. We may cancel them. We don't know. But as of right now, staff-wise, we're not planning on September meetings. If something comes up, they're there, we'll have them. But with year-end wrapping up, new employees starting, we're trying to give us a little break.
Is there a way that we can get this thing done by their 18th of August meeting? Is there a way we can go to the vendors that?
The agenda goes out tomorrow, and all items are due today for the 18th meeting.
Well, I'm just saying, is there a way we can accelerate the bidding process out there?
The only thing we can do if we were to, I've got emails for the ones that we sent them out to. We could send emails out to them and say we changed the date. Would that be a problem with an RFP? I think because we don't know who else got one after that, after the ones that we sent it out.
Was it just a mailing or an ad?
Well, we emailed them all out to everybody. Yeah.
Just email them out again to everybody.
Yeah, and most of them will come in, they'll come back into George. I don't think George has received that. Well, she'll have gotten one, because they sent me a copy too.
Well, if we duplicate the way the original went out and just say the date has changed so that we can meet a deadline.
Yeah.
I don't see a
Would
problem.
that be?
The agenda is due, it goes out tomorrow. So, and all of the
Yeah, well,
agenda items
they'll
are
get it
today.
on the agenda.
Yeah, for the 18th. So I think either way, you guys are looking at either a September meeting or potentially October. But in that case, you need to make sure your people who are bidding are holding their prices for.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll
that
know the
time.
19th pretty much, because they'll probably pretty much hold what they're gonna do at this point, I would think, so. We might just have to wait till October.
Okay.
Just let it ride right now until we get the proposals in, we'll get them out, and then we'll have our meeting, we can do what we have to do and then move on. And if they come up and they decide they're gonna have their meeting in September, then we can get it on the agenda.
Yes,
Okay,
a week in advance.
okay, yeah, right, okay. Okay, so going from what we wanted to do, going to, this is what we've been doing, and we will try to get this stuff put together on the 19th. Once it gets in, I'll send the information out so you have it for the next meeting, so we're ready to go in September or October, so we get moving on this. And whoever we decide to give it to, we'll contact them and tell them we're waiting until such a date. And I'm sure that they'll hold their prices. We've dealt with most of them quite a bit. They work in this area. So.
Get it in writing.
Huh?
Get it in writing.
Oh, yes, no question. Yes, get it in writing or on an email. Okay, I didn't really expect the trees to be that expensive. I knew they would be. They're $35 per palm and $285 per oak tree.
280.
And someone told me that seemed like a good price. And I said, I don't sound like a good price to me. It's just too much stuff.
I'm gonna have to make you remove and replace all the oak trees with palm trees. And lower your future maintenance costs.
Yeah, okay,
Holy cow. Ridiculous.
okay. Moving on. We sent copies of the systems and facilities operation and maintenance agreement. And for some of our new members, very thumbnail sketch. The operation and maintenance agreement was first signed at turnover in 2006. And the difference between what we have now and what we had then was Stoneybrook was authorized to collect the funding, et cetera, and the assessments and pay all the stuff for, and handle all the stuff, all the gateway assets in Stoneybrook. About 2007, 2008, it all turned a heck of a handbasket and everything come back here. And eventually they come up with the current operations and maintenance agreement. And they eliminated the aspect that Stoneybrook would collect the assessments. All the assessments would be collected through Gateway Services as part of their tax foundation. And that's what the budget we worked on just before, when everybody first joined, that's what was used to go into that account. And the 04 fund was established. The maintenance agreement, you had copies of it. There's some things in there that kind of puts responsibility and stuff back onto Stoneybrook. And the purpose for this was to ensure that the residents of Stoneybrook and the board could run their whole operation even with the gateway assets, the same as other HOAs do. They made all the stuff on it. The funding was handled through them and everything. Now it's changed where all the funding comes from Gateway itself through the 04 fund. And it's through, this committee then monitors those funds. This committee reviews the projects, et cetera, on that. I think we've had some things kind of go haywire a little bit on some stuff. And I think we need to set up some guidelines as to programming, projects, et cetera. I think the HOA has really not totally lived up to this agreement on here, because it has a listing of all the stuff that the HOA is supposed to monitor and take care of and is responsible for. The association shall be solely responsible for staffing, budgeting, processing of vendor billing, administration, et cetera, necessary to perform the operation, routine maintenance responsibility set forth in the agreement. And that's not all the stuff, the gatehouse, the roadways, the walkways, all these different things that are supposed to be done. There's a funding mechanism within this agreement, which the HOA has not taken advantage of. Everything has been coming down here, and that's one reason that we pay a lot of money to other people to do things, because we're not doing some of the stuff at the HOA. What they have scheduled here is 2 months of operational money in an account that whoever the HOA can have a project, write a check, pay off, then they send all those receipts and everything to Gateway and they refund it. So that the account that they have keeps the same amount of money all the time. That's gone in every month. It gives them the latitude to do things within Stoneybrook without having to actually come through the CDD to get some of the things done. The HOA has not lived up to that aspect. I won't say lived up to it, has not taken advantage of that aspect of it, and have just let all these billing and stuff come through Gateway Services. Major projects and stuff, of course, comes through Gateway Services, no problem. And I think the one thing we need to do is to have the HOA fulfill, handle those kinds of things. The advisory committee should not be handling any real projects. Or if you look at our guidelines, our resolution, there's nothing there that says we do these different things. These projects should be handled and set up through the HOA. They're the ones that know what they need to do, what has to get done, and handle it that way. So I sent out a draft of ideas and stuff of what's been done elsewhere. Tom has gone through and made it look more official than me. I say I'm just an old operational guy. I can write the stuff out, but got people that can smooth these things out. And I think some of the things in there are important because the only way, and some of the stuff is stuff that we get asked about when we have to go to the Board of Supervisors to discuss things, or things come to the Board of Supervisors and they start asking those questions. How many, did you have an RFP? Did you have a scope of work? Did you check the company out? Did you do this? Did you do that? All these things that is required by the CDD for all the functions that they do. And they do a lot of those different things. And I think requiring some of these things is really to me, is no kind of big deal, other than the fact that it's got to be done that particular way so we can make sure that we know exactly what's being done, who's monitoring it, and going from that aspect of it.
Question.
Yeah.
What have you and Tom done?
I'm sorry?
What have you and Tom done?
No, the red line stuff is what Tom did.
This.
And mine is just white.
Change it a little.
That was the one I
From
sent
what I
out.
thought he was.
George
Yeah,
gave
yeah.
another one.
Yeah, I wrote
That's the
some
old one.
stuff out and then he was able to go through and just change some of the wording and stuff to make it look a little bit different.
This is the cleaned up one, George is.
Oh, okay. All right.
So questions, comments?
Let me just ask, if I'm understanding this correctly. So you would prefer, or Gateway would prefer, that the HOA handle everything, pay for it, and then just submit for reimbursement?
Most of well, you can't do it now because we don't have any assets, any money that the Gateway would give you. But by the agreement, there's 2 months of operational money that goes into a checking account per se. And that's what you would spend out of that particular checking account and then get
You're talking about
reimbursed.
this agreement.
Yes, that agreement there, yes, yes.
So what you're saying is we're going to actually have to follow this thing then.
Yeah, that's been that's the law of the land for us. I mean, that's been approved by the Board of Supervisors. and approved-
I understand. Yeah, in 2012, 10 years ago.
Yes, there's changes that need to get
Have we
done.
ever followed it?
Sometimes. But it was approved, again, by the Board of Supervisors, and it was approved by the Board of Directors.
I'm not questioning
yeah.
that, but I'm saying we haven't followed this thing in 10 years. What you're saying now is we're going to actually have to make, this is a very difficult read, but we're actually going to have to follow this,
Yes.
which is going to put a super burden on the HOA.
Tom, as an example to me, I think we caught hell over the concrete.
Yeah.
Signing it down. There was no coordination at all. And that's my fault. I'm not throwing that out there.
Oh, I don't doubt that at all. I'm not questioning that. I'm just saying it's going to be a jolt to all of a sudden start following this agreement.
Well,
And the HOA is probably not even staffed to do all this.
Well, this is, there's nothing, to me, there's nothing that would
I
be,
got it. Thank you.
there's nothing that the HOA would have to do that they wouldn't have to do if Gateway didn't own the streets and sidewalks. All the other HOAs have the same responsibilities of their streets, their sidewalks, and all the landscaping stuff. But we have, but Gateway Services has their own assets in there that we take care of and stuff, so.
So if the HOA does it all, which I don't have a problem with, providing we can handle the workload, does that eliminate the need for this committee?
It could down the
We're gonna
road.
do the work and arrange the project and all of that kind of stuff, and then submit the bills directly to them for reimbursement to the HOA. We don't need to be.
I would say that if we had been followed it, because this, the advisory committee was in place at the time that agreement was written, but was never put into that as to what they were going to handle. That's why when we rewrote the resolution, we put in there basically what we were doing and what we should be doing. And I think that was some of the stuff. And I know when Joe was chair, he many times mentioned that we shouldn't be doing project. We shouldn't be doing that. That should be the HOA doing those projects. But then it comes down, really, HOA can do the projects. I don't have a problem with that. But there are certain things they have to do, 3 proposals, write an RFP so we don't run into problems, having a lead worker, and all these different things that we've kind of included in this planning sheet, so that we don't mess up like we did on that sidewalk thing. That was just a fupa. And what bothers me most about that is that it seemed like we got thrown under the bus and we had no input into how that was going to happen. We didn't have any input about going out and doing anything other than funding the project. And we're the ones, I didn't hear the HOA popping up and saying, well, hey, we'll take care of this and this and this. They didn't, no one popped up because no one was in charge, And I think it was really bad. But that is, to me, that's just an example of some of the problems you can run into if you don't have lead workers, if you don't have proposals, if you haven't vetted people properly, all these little different things that pop up. And when you're dealing, with HOA, it's not a problem with your money, but we're dealing with government money here, and government processes, which takes a little bit more documentation to make sure that things are being done right and done, and there's no real big problem in going down through that.
We know if the Pelican Preserve people are having the same discussions we're having right now.
They have an advisory committee also,
Right.
and they get they're more advanced, I want to say. And I was talking to them. They get a lot of money to do stuff, and they budget that money out from when they get from the O2 account. And they budget that money into certain aspects. I think one of them is landscaping. That's one of the problems they're having over there now, is dealing with the landscaping aspect of it. But they're just a little bit different. We're not as, I want to say, sophisticated. We don't have as much workload as they have in that aspect. But their problems, I think, right now is just push and shove between what's going on. And I think, we need just to kind of, if we're going to have the HOA do a project, or they're going to do a project, they need to follow the guidelines that we have to follow here as far as for Gateway and stuff. And
I'm
not
just trying to figure out what our mission statement is as the advisory committee versus the HOA in the light of this agreement. I mean, where do we fit in? Where does the HOA fit in?
Yeah, that's
So the beauty of an agreement, and even it says in here, is it can be amended
yes.
and
Yes.
reviewed. And I would highly recommend that we're a decade later that
Yeah.
this
And
gets reviewed. But I sympathize. It's been on the books for, I've been here less than 90 days and I've heard that nonstop. Well, we've always done it this way. That doesn't mean it's the right way.
Right.
And so from an administrative standpoint, we're trying to, if this is the rules we all play by.
Yeah.
If we don't like the rules, we change the rules.
Right. And that's one of the things, and I talked about this several different times, different places, different people. And one thing that I'm convinced about is fine, that agreement is good. It gives exactly what's going to happen. But again, after 12 years, I don't think the amount of funding that they're giving us, like it was 2 months of operational money, I don't think that's enough right now. I think there's some limits in there as far as minor capital projects and major capital projects. All that funding needs to be increased because costs and everything have gone up. Those numbers need to be increased. And if that, to go now, that would do that. If the HOA does not want to stay with the agreement, then they can come to the Board of Supervisors and say, no, then the advisory committee can just handle what's going to happen. Now, we have less staff than anybody because we don't have any staff. But I think there's ways like Joe said, if you don't like it, then let's do it. Let's either get rid of it, amend it, but basically follow the guidelines of what they're and the guidelines, and it says in there of what the responsibilities are and where at. Because of the appendix, I think it's B, has all the stuff that comes under that agreement. So that's kind of what we need to do. And I hate to come down and for a project to come in and all of a sudden say, hey, we're not going to approve it because you don't have three proposals, you don't have this, you don't have that. We need to set the guidelines of what's going to come into us. Now,
The HOA takes that process in of getting things done and fixing this and fixing that. And then all they're doing is submitting a bill for reimbursement. So then we don't have to necessarily worry about the governmental guidelines that the CDD has to follow.
it's still going to come to Gateway money.
Well, Gateway is holding the money in their pocket. It's the residents' money.
No, it's the Gateway money.
No,
The Stoneybrook, there's nothing on the tax
how do
docket.
they earn it?
And you've heard Joe and I argue about this a lot. There's nothing on the tax docket that says Stoneybrook HOA assessment. It's all under Gateway Services. That's what it comes out to. When the money gets here, then Gateway divides it up between the 01 account, the 02 account, and 04 account. And the 04 account is the amount, the budget money that we project out is going to go. And all that money, by their rules, has to be used in Stoneybrook.
Correct.
So it's still Gateway money. They're holding it, and they can only use it in our community.
Yeah, but the origin of that money.
So we kind of,
It's our pocket.
we're like an oversight committee almost, is what you're saying. We're gonna look at, make sure they submit everything they're supposed to. We got 3 RFPs like you wanted. You have a lead person, someone's inspecting it. We have the money to do it, to say yes or no, we can do it because we have enough money, and then say, okay, we can fund that. That's what it sounds like.
Now, I think the guidelines we want to put out is that if you're going to do a project, certain things need to be followed. And sometimes, they don't get followed, and then we end up with a problem. And I hate to see the problem. I hate to see anybody get, kind of get shortchanged or something happened that shouldn't happen or whatever. But it happens that way if you don't follow some guidelines. It's hard to take 3 or 4 proposals, and if you don't have a RFP showing exactly what you want to do and what the scope of work is, it's hard to match those to see which one is the best, because you're not dealing with apples and apples. You might be dealing with apples and oranges, and you're trying to pick the best one, where you should have guidelines to show this is what we're looking for. In the proposal we put out for the trees, we told them exactly what we wanted them to do. Plus, then we also sent them the Gateway guidelines for pruning and tree trimming. I think that's the key thing that we need to do, is make sure that we're matching and everybody knows what's going on. We need, who's going to be the lead person in the project, so everybody can go to that person to lead that. So as I say, that
We got some shaking notes.
Sounds like a plan.
I'm sorry.
I said, it sounds like a plan.
Now, how is this gonna be affected by, or should this all be put on hold until we get that review or guidelines or whatever that's coming out? Because we
Sure.
may be putting the cart before the horse here.
So this is on the books. The guidelines that are coming out are very boilerplate policies and procedures of how an advisory committee should operate, what they're comprised of, the number of, the term limits, all of that kind of stuff. But when it comes to the actual scope, this would play a factor into that, into those policies and procedures. But if this committee has heartburn with this agreement, I highly recommend you look at it and comb through it with a fine
That
tooth
would-
comb.
The agreement would have to be reviewed by the HOA. The agreement is with the HOA. I think what we're asking for is guidelines into what we will accept as a project, or what we expect to be provided to us on a project, so that when we sit down and make a decision, I think back to the last project we looked at, and as I look at what was proposed and what was talking about, I really feel that our mistake is that we approved it. We should have sent it back and say, this, on the sidewalks, there's not enough information. How can you walk down a sidewalk and suddenly come to a driveway and say, wait a minute, we can't touch that driveway, but there's a half inch or 3/4 of an inch step there, that's a trip hazard. So we're not going to do that trip hazard because it's by a driveway. We can't do that. There should have been something to say, this is what we're going to do. So, I mean, it needs, to me, we need to just solidify those things so that when we put a project out, it's going to go as smoothly as we can. That can be operated on. I think the guidelines that we're putting out, to me, is just good business. I don't see anything beyond that, just good business.
So to help with this, essentially, what should have been going on for the last 10 years is the district would give 2 months worth of a retainer to the HOA. The HOA oversee the smaller ancillary projects identified in Exhibit B. Each month, the HOA would request reimbursement to the district for those funds. Now, understanding that per this agreement, that HOA has to operate based on all of the district's policies and procedures and implement anything that we implement, i.e. this board. So if this board, and with the approval of the Board of Supervisors, because let's be real, we're an advisory committee here, you set up the rules and policies and procedures in place that you would like to see the HOA perform per this agreement.
Right.
So if it's RFP, has to be out on the street for advertised for a month, 3 days, whatever it is, minimum of 3 written proposals, whatever those are. But the HOA, that burden of handling and oversight of that is on the HOA with the blessing of this board.
And I think Pelican, in answering your question, Dave, they get 3 or 4 months of operational money.
I'm not 100% sure.
I think they get 3 or 4 months of operational money, and they send their receipts and stuff in, and it gets paid, and it's a direct deposit. It doesn't, they don't write a check to the HOA. It's a direct deposit to a bank and stuff. How they
Do you send the receipts in as they're incurred? Or
No,
monthly or every
once a
2
month.
months?
Yeah, once a month, or how often you need to
They
do it.
submit and that layout per this O&M is all detailed that it should be by X date, fully reimbursable package, because it's an extension of the district. So it's up for audit. So we have to cross our T's and dot our I's.
And I think really that the HOA should take a look at this and make recommendations as far as some changes on it. Because I say, it's 10, 12 years old, and some of these price tags now have gone up to the point that it makes it would be difficult to operate on some of that stuff. But that's something the HOA would have to do. We can make recommendations and stuff.
If I form a new HOA committee and I call it the 004 committee and put all of you guys on it, and then you just handle all the projects, you do everything that needs to be done, and then submit the bill, and the board is gonna say, okay.
True that.
And this way, you You guys are,
That's the way to do
still
it.
having a meaningful
Sometimes I
job,
feel that's what we're doing anyway.
right? Well, up until this sidewalk thing, we didn't have any problems. We got the road done, there was no problem.
Well, there
We
was-
got the bike path done, everything was good. It's only because the vendors screwed up and grinded people's driveways that we have a big problem now.
Well, that's
So
a whole
maybe
nother
that's an
story
easier
there.
solution. Then you don't have to
Well,
have an
sunshine
advisory
law
committee.
keeps from doing that. We can't, if, was it 3 of us, 2 of us, whatever, if we can't meet at another sunshine law.
No, there would be no advisory.
Oh,
committee,
okay.
Because it all comes in-house, the HOA. And now you guys are all on the committee. You can still be the lead person of the committee. We do it all in-house, and then monthly or however we have to do it, we submit the paperwork to the CDA.
That would be one aspect that I have thought about, that if we did away with the advisory committee, that there would be a committee like that within the HOA.
Yeah.
But it would not come under sunshine at that particular time.
We'd actually have to do some work to do that.
That would be good.
The same work we've been doing, right?
Oh, no, yeah, a lot more. Yeah, a lot more.
Well, and it's,
Okay, if we're thinking about doing this, and not that we have much choice apparently, but why are we establishing subcommittees that are subject to the sunshine law and all this other nonsense? If all that stuff's gonna go back to the HOA anyway.
Well, I think that's sort of new information.
I think this whole thing warrants a review by the district attorney. And my opinion, and I skimmed this before when we were discussing Pelican, because I knew you guys had your own O&M. I just reread it, familiarized myself with it again, but I think before any action's taken, it would warrant the district attorney's review and input. And I think that should be done at your next meeting, in my opinion.
that's good, that's fine. But I still think that as far between now and then, I think that we need to make sure that the HOA knows that we're going to be looking at the projects a little bit closer now because of the last project, because I really feel strongly that we got thrown under the bus. Totally
Actually,
thrown under the bus.
I can agree with you. I think even the HOA got thrown under the bus because it was our temporary interim CAM that took upon this thing on itself, that nobody really had any idea what was going on. And all of a sudden, we wake up one morning and we see orange lines on all the sidewalks, and it's like, what's going on?
I didn't know when it was gonna start.
No, nobody knew anything.
Some of the projects, and what was surprising was that when we talked to some people about it, some of the board of directors didn't even know anything about it.
I didn't know anything about it until I got a call saying, why is he driving around spraying paint on the sidewalk?
And then, and that's just, that's one of the things that, as I say, I think our failing here was that we relied on the HOA, and we should have just not approved it because there were some questions there. And we talked about not doing driveways, but that information never got to the vendor, and it never got to the CAM, who was supposed to oversee the project. And I think that it was a communication error that caused some of that stuff. So I don't, as I say, but I think going to the aspect of requiring some RFPs, an RFP and proposals, et cetera, I think that should just be standard that we need to do as of now. And whether we put this out now or wait until after we get a review of it, I think that's something we have to take a hard look at. The stuff that's coming from the HOA, because it's too easy sometimes, because the HOA operates on a different level. They don't worry about some things. Here we have to worry about qualifying with Gateway Services guidelines and stuff, because that's what this is all, what we're about here. I think that's, to me, it's good business for some of this stuff. And of course, this only kind of, the way I wrote this out is the way that I'm used to doing things. And I think some other people have done it pretty much the same way, a little different because of different businesses. But there's just some stuff that you have to qualify if you're going to spend some people's money, that you have to qualify that you're doing the best you can and getting the best people to do that particular job. So,
Our maintenance agreement is a public document, is it not?
Yeah.
And so the Pelican is also a public document?
yes.
Are there major differences between the two? Have you seen ours and theirs? I'm curious as to
Yeah, yes.
what's,
Well, I wouldn't say major differences. There's definitely differences, which is why we're trying to get everybody on the same page. Pelican is a whole different animal because they have a management company handling, and that's the contract that the district has with that management company and HOA. Whereas this is, I mean, it's similar but different. Like I said, we're trying to get everybody on the same page.
right.
Same
So
format.
procedurally, then you deal with the CAMS company.
Yeah.
Instead of
It's not
volunteers.
short-term. Well, we do deal with both.
Well, yeah, but
But
okay, that's interesting.
the reimbursement, yes.
Pelican's been in operation for a lot longer than what we
Right.
have been, and they've been doing a lot of different things, and they're, I wouldn't say more sophisticated, but they're more, they got a lot more stuff going on than what we.
Yeah, the only reason I raise the issue is that if there's something like that, and we're gonna take a look at what we're doing.
Yeah.
And whether we're gonna do it or not, and how the HOA factors in.
Yeah.
Take a look at what they're doing too.
Yeah.
And maybe we can come up with a good hybrid that will work better.
And I will tell you, Pelican is looking to make multiple subcommittees to handle through those committees with volunteers to handle a lot of the oversight of the district's assets over there.
Mhm.
Whereas this committee doesn't necessarily, Stoneybrook may not have the volunteer group that Pelican has.
Right.
So,
And I don't think we have as much assets that we have to worry about. Our assets is pretty much in front of us when we drive.
Right, but you don't want to get caught with your pants down.
Oh, no,
either.
no question.
You know, when it happens, you want to be able to have a procedure in
And-
place to get it done.
The one thing that surprised me, I don't know if you remember this. I think it was right after I come on this committee, I made a presentation at the board meeting, maybe it was before even Kiwanis meeting, about this agreement. And half the board didn't even know this agreement existed.
I would believe
Huh?
that. I believe that.
Yeah.
Georgia?
So
Send us.
that makes you wonder, you know.
Well, I've been on this committee
I'd
10
like to
years
see
and
this.
I didn't know this.
I never saw this before.
You don't,
I have heard Joe, I remember hearing Joe reference
Yeah,
something out in the ether.
so
Yeah.
Warren, to help move this along,
yes.
what I'll do in the interim is I will reach out to Tony with this O&M agreement and say, hey, let's get our eyes on this. You know, what are next steps to truly implement this agreement as it should have been the last 10 years? But needless, how do we gradually make this true and accurate? I will also, for your next meeting, Warren, your requirements here stemmed some ideas. So
Okay.
we've drafted some documents, I guess you could say, or like forms that we'll distribute as part of your packet for next
Okay.
month. And then as well as the request for Pelican Preserves O&M. That way
Okay.
you guys can
Okay.
see theirs. Again, similar but different.
Yeah. And I've talked to a bunch of them that are on the committee, the chairman and stuff, and it just sounds like we have it made compared to what they're dealing with, the different stuff in their stuff. So,
And it may be easy for us to do, we just don't know how to do it.
so just so that we get on a page so that we're not making mistakes that's going to affect people down the road. And I think working with the stuff here, I think bringing it up, getting people talking about it is a good way to start. At least people are thinking about it and stuff. And it, you know, in my feeling, if you have an agreement, you need to follow it. If you don't want to follow it, then you go back and you change it or readjust it or come back to the board and say, hey, we don't want to follow. We just want to keep the advisory committee doing what they're doing and we'll do this and that. And what requirements we put for projects and stuff would be it. But that's something that the HOA, to me, would have to go through the board of supervisors because we're not, the advisory committee is not part of that agreement. And that's what's kind of surprising because nothing in that agreement mentions anything about the advisory committee. So, and the advisory committee was in operation at the time that was done, you know. It makes you wonder, you know, what was going on. And the leadership and some of the leadership both on both sides, things weren't as busy or as in-depth as they are now with the CDD. The same way with the HOA, things have changed. Just things have gotten pretty somewhat complicated.
Oh, exactly. That may have been great in 2011 or 2012, and right now it may be
Well, it still
85% useless because it's not accurate. It's not up to what's going on today. So
Well, it's accurate to the point of what is responsible, what the HOA is responsible for, but I think the numbers are off now as far as of what can be done and what has to get done. Yeah, there are some things that's been done that hasn't gone in the right direction. I think we need to kind of get that so that the HOA and the CDD, everybody is all kind of working together in that same direction. So. Okay, well, we'll just go ahead and table this for now. And then when we get more information from Chelsea, we'll bring it back up and make adjustments as necessary on that. Okay? Okay, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? We didn't get our budget stuff, so we're not gonna discuss the budget stuff at this time. We'll get that stuff in a little bit later on that. The HOA submitted a request, a project to put lights around the gatehouse, and want to explain what's going to happen?
Well, this is a really strange one, because first, when we spoke to either you or the CDD or the powers to be, however, it was like, oh, that's a great idea. And the HOA is gonna pay for it? Go ahead and do it. You're allowed to put your shovel in our ground. Okay, so we got it all arranged. Then it comes back and says, well, no, you know what? We're gonna have to pay for it. It's gonna have to go through the 004 and all that kind of stuff. Okay, you can pay for it, not a problem. So that's where we stand now. But this is just like for uplighting and landscape lighting around the gatehouse, because it's very dark and dreary, with the exception of the bright white bulbs I had put in there on the carriage lights. And so we got proposals and had one identified. And when I got an email from somebody here, not here, it had led me to believe that, okay, they're good with this number. We don't have to get more proposals. So I told the guy, listen, now you need to get in touch with the CDD, because now they're gonna pay for it. The HOA's not paying for it. So make sure you got your insurance certificate and all of that kind of paperwork that you have to do. And that's where it is.
Okay.
I don't know if they contacted each other yet.
I think I heard they did get the paperwork, but that we'll have to double check on that.
MISPA.
Yeah.
Because we're having them do 2 other projects.
That's your stuff.
Yeah, that's not on Gateway land.
Okay. Okay, this is for the lights, that it's 5820, and in doing some checking, I don't know.
Well, maybe the first thing you need to do is now that the position has changed and that, oh no, Gateway has to pay for it, should I tell the guy, don't do it because we don't have the money to do it?
No, well,
I mean,
we have the money to do it. My question comes up in, as I normally do on most of these things, I did a little vetting of my own, check the state and et cetera. And I found that this particular company is rated C+ with the Better Business Bureau. And it really come down to one incident they had on one of their customers. They failed basically to honor a warranty. That they put some cameras, the cameras didn't work. They took them out, they changed them, et cetera. And then they dropped the cameras off, and then we're going to come back to install. But it was about a year. The guy allegedly said he kept calling to get it done, and they never come out. And then they spoke to somebody at this office, and they said, well, Austin told the office girl that we are no longer doing service for you. You've been denied service. So this is how the company, they're going on. And they never responded back to the Better Business Bureau when they got the complaint. Only thing I question, are we going to be able to trust this person if these lights don't work or stuff, and we go after warranty stuff? I mean, this is the only incident that was on a Better Business Bureau. But, it's
Chris, what are we talking about in terms of dollars?
5,800.
Okay.
Now, they also did, the reason why we have this particular vendor is he lives on Bluestone. And he came in and bailed us out and did the electrification, that's the right word to use, for the storage building. We had given it to a previous vendor who, maybe about after his first half a day on the job, threw his hands up and walked off.
How long has he lived on Bluestone?
And I don't know, I've only been there 5 years, so I would say within the 5 years.
So we know where he
95,
lives and he's entrenched.
He's like 4 houses away from me, but I didn't know him. I didn't even know that he lived there until after we got him, and I found out from the camp, who is this guy? He goes, like, well, he lives right near you. That don't mean I know him.
Right, no, but
But anyway,
we know where he lives.
he came in after the fact and cleaned up the other guy's mess and redid the electric for the shed and saved us $500. His bill was $500 less than the original guy. And he also straightened out a couple of things with the pool. So I said, okay, give him a call, see if he can do it. Now, we just gave him the contract, for lack of a better term, to do the light back on the storage building, to light up the back side of the property, because we're having trouble with kids back there.
Mhm.
But that was only $450. It's just a nice fixture on the side of the shed. And we do have his proposal for the same kind of landscaping, uplighting, going around turn of the driveway, coming in between Pebblebrook and our parking lot. If you're driving in and out of there, especially if it's raining at night, your headlights are shooting over there, but the road goes over there. So we need to, so he's got a proposal. I think that one's like 2,700. So we may approve that Monday night.
Okay.
But that's the only history I know on this guy. I mean, I couldn't tell you. He's a nice enough guy for what it's worth.
Yeah.
He's probably about 30 years old, got 2 kids and a wife.
Mhm. Do we know how long he's been in business?
Licensed and insured?
I don't think he owns the business.
If you're going to speak, got to come up here.
No, he's the president.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the Alston. He's the top dog.
He's the recorded agent, Alston Diaz.
Okay,
And the president is Austin Diaz.
all right.
And been in business since, first annual report that was filed was 2016 with the Secretary of State's office on their stuff.
Okay.
They were in Lehigh Acres and they moved over to Bluestone. I don't think it was that long ago that they moved his business office over to Bluestone. It wasn't Lehigh Acres originally. And I throw that out only because, we need to make a decision, on what's going to go. We have a problem with that or what? I mean, it's open for comments.
What were some of the other RFP numbers?
I'd have to go find the papers.
I mean, was it significantly more?
No, I think JT only had one other one. Couldn't get people to come out for a small project.
Yeah.
They were like, well, we got these 2 palm trees and this other tree, and we already have those lights on the sign.
I think from the concern from the staff perspective was who's paying that light bill?
We are. The HOA.
The HOA or Stony
Well,
Brook?
where's the
Or,
we pay the electric for the gatehouse, don't we?
No,
We do. Are you sure?
and I think that's what prompted this, us saying, because if the advisory committee and the district are paying for that light bill, and the HOA is making the request, somebody's gonna have to pay for that additional electrical in perpetuity, unless it's removed. And I think that's what stemmed it. So there was That's,
It's not gonna be significant. It should be a couple of LED lights. And they use like nickel.
unless,
It'll
And-
probably less than the
Yeah.
bubblers that we've been paying.
But
for
if-
on the lights
but
over
if-
the years that we weren't supposed to.
but if the HOA paid for this and set up a new service, then they would have to do a license agreement with the district if it's district-owned property. So
What I can figure here is that utility gatehouse would include that because that particular is down. They've used 87% of the money that's been assigned to it. So I'm thinking that's where the electric is because there's a electric for the street lights, et cetera. And that's the only thing that would come close to that. So it'd be, questions, comments?
Anybody have any ideas? Tell me what you want me to do. We can kill it. We can, get other options. I can,
I think from a safety and aesthetic standpoint, it's a good idea. Let's make it happen. How do we do that?
Just have to approve, we can approve this or we can go back out and get another.
Do we need more
proposal.
bids for $5,800? I mean, is there a cap or a high or a low? I mean, can you go with 2 bids? Can you go with?
Well, I think if they have the 2 bids and they feel this is the best one, I think that would.
Let's move it along. I'll make a motion that we approve. Is that good?
What is with the electric thing? Who could put the kibosh to it? Right, because of the electric, who's paying? We're gonna have to pay them extra every month. Is that what this agreement would be?
I'm sure it's gonna get tacked off of the existing electrical service in the gatehouse, so you might see the monthly bill going up. I don't know, what's it gonna cost for 4 or 5 LED?
Yeah,
It's not much, but
I don't.
what is the CDD gonna say, after we've approved, they're not gonna pay because we didn't.
I
No,
don't
it comes out of the 004, so it's not
So
coming out
they're
of the
just gonna
001.
automatically deduct money every month?
They'll just
out of
come out
the
of, but
004?
we've already budgeted money for the electrical for that aspect of it. And every year we get the extra lights and stuff for the Christmas, and they have lights plugged in there yet.
No,
around the
they're
tree.
down.
Are they down now?
Yeah,
Okay.
paper's took them down.
Okay.
I mean, I like the idea. I'm just wanna know, like, what.
the point was the HOA made a request to the district, to SBAC, to have additional lights installed at the gatehouse. If SBAC approves it, you have to understand that there's going to be an additional incurred cost for electricity moving forward in perpetuity. So, and if the SBAC is okay with that, then by all means move forward. But keep in mind, I don't know if any permits are required to do this. That's something else that would have to
So
look
I
at.
was told that there has to be a permit. because
Yeah.
It's a CDD project now.
And that's been, the original proposal was, I think, 51, 52, and this one is up to 58, and he
Well-
included,
Permit fees and stuff on there. Yeah.
he has electrical permit fees in the
Well,
proposal.
A permit would come by Lee County if it's an electrical permit. And then the district has implemented a utilization of rights of way. I'm still learning. Stoneybrook is unique. So I'm trying to figure out with our attorney who owns what, if it's an HOA filling out a request form to put these lights within the district's rights. Perfect example, Waterford Village wanted to put a flock cameras in district medians, but it's theirs to maintain. They had to fill out a utilization of right-of-way application.
And what
So-
does that mean?
It's just that, it's a form acknowledging that the HOA or Waterford Village installed something in on district property.
That doesn't sound like a big deal.
It's not, it's just a matter of making sure that's, it's done, a check.
I have a question for you, though. The in perpetuity electric cost, how is that determined? Are you gonna say it's gonna be $100 when it's only a $2 charge?
Yeah, well,
Or how do we determine what that in perpetuity electric charge is gonna be?
No, just you're adding
Yeah.
additional lights, there's gonna be an increased incurred cost to the district's budget.
So
And
How's that determined?
how do we determine it?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Well, I don't really feel that personally that it's gonna cost that much more that we couldn't absorb that because what we put in.
It just shows up in the bill though, right?
Yeah.
For the power, from the
It should.
company.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, it's on that.
As long as it's a true and accurate cost, that's fine.
Yeah.
Reassess whatever.
Yeah.
And the reason why we're under budget is probably because last year I changed out all the light bulbs in and outside of the gatehouse to LED. So that's probably why you're at 87%.
Yeah.
Speaking of which,
Yeah.
So the savings that we just got.
speaking of which,
Yeah.
we're gonna talk about that, I think, next, aren't we?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have, I don't have a problem. I don't think, the cost, the electric cost is gonna be that's gonna hurt our budget from this year. So Gary's made a motion to approve it. Do we hear a second?
I'll second it.
Will you help us with the form we have to sign?
I will help you with that.
Thank you.
As long as you stop and clicking.
We may have to go to solar lighting, but that's, okay. All right, we have a motion and a second to approve this, and also what we'll have to do, but we'll do it in a separate motion. All in favor of approving this project? Aye. Okay. We also then have to move some money, $5,810 from our $45,000 account to the utility of landscaping services of 5810, and there's plenty of money in there now. Say we started at 45,000 when the meeting started, and if we put this on here, we'll still have money in that account. And we haven't used any there, so I need a motion to approve moving the money 5810 from landscape services to utility gatehouse.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Virginia. I'm getting used to it from my board meetings because the person is down writing and they hear it, but you don't know whose voice it is, so.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the moving the funds. Any comments? All in favor? Aye. Okay, good. Okay. And last thing is actually more informational, the FPL lighting conversion. Gateway is looking at possibly changing all of the lights, street lights, et cetera, to LED lights. Our system in Stoneybrook is part of the Gateway system. We have 193 poles in there. We are billed separately on that. We could move forward. One of the key things we have to decide is, A, do we want to change from our current lighting to LED? If that's the case, then we're going to have to move forward. She's not looking at me right now. Because I already said a whole bunch of questions on it. And there's a process we have to follow. It's nothing that can happen overnight. But the first question we have to answer is, do we want to go to LED lights in Stoneybrook? And there's 193 poles on all the streets. So to me, I think it's a good idea, especially along Pebblebrook, because that's where everybody's up and down. We may have some problems on some of the side streets because those that been around and rode their bikes around, they've seen the light poles that have been painted black because people didn't want the light going in their houses.
Warren, will we be getting better lighting at lower cost?
I think
You have to look at the options that are proposed in that lighting conversion.
I saw, I
So-
wasn't sure where we stood.
If you guys are on high pressure sodium lights right now, converting to LED is straight across the board is going to be an energy savings. Now, the level of LED that you choose will vary. Now, 4000 K is very bright white light. Per FPL, most neighborhoods go to the 3000 Kelvin. It's a little bit softer, but you do get the added benefit of LED. But on that proposal, there was a couple different options. And then I believe in the email I sent accompanying that with the attachment, the FPL provider provided an example, the breakdown of cost. You may have some savings if you choose this compared to this. I think there was nominal savings if you chose one over the other, but either way, converting to LED, that's what everybody's going to now.
So we could have better lighting at the same cost, which would also be a plus.
If that's what.
Some of the other costs that could be incurred would be light poles. I think our light poles probably need a painting more so than they need to be replaced.
Oh, big time. I would almost vote to keep the same lights and just paint 193 poles because they look awful.
Yeah,
Oh,
you're
they're
right.
terrible.
But
Some
I
of them
think
are worse
the
than
poles
others.
and stuff
Yeah.
are owned by Florida Power and Light. And the program that we have is good because they own them. We have a problem with the light, you make a call to FP&L, you say this pole lights out, and they come out pretty quick and they fix it up. I think that one of the things we need to look at is perhaps keeping the light poles, but maybe changing the lights.
Well, would the lights fit on the existing poles or do we have to get new poles?
No, I don't know.
This is a fixture conversion.
Okay.
They would just, their poles would stay the same.
And it may be, and I don't know, and that's some of the questions that come up, and I sent a whole bunch of questions to Chelsea, and then you get more questions go along, and like, for me, I would like to see along Pebblebrook, the lights that kind of come out more instead of the ones that sit on top, but the ones that come out really gonna give some more light out onto the pathway and the walkway. Ones on the side streets, maybe we need to keep it a little bit different because you don't know where the light's gonna go. I mean, there's different things that we can do, but
And
it's got.
From my experience working with FPL, I believe that I could ask that they may entertain that, saying, hey, we want to do the main road of this neighborhood, get the feel of the community, get the buy-in from the community before we move on to the side streets. And that may be an option as well. But if that's the desire of the board here, we can look into that.
I was at that meeting, wasn't it to change the head, the light, $45?
I believe it's waived on this one, but I can
Waived?
confirm with Eric,
Okay.
just to confirm. Because I was reading the small print, you know how FPL loves to throw
Oh,
that
yeah.
in there, so.
There's a lot of options there, and I think, Gary and I sat through the whole thing. He gave up.
I did about 2 hours.
But it was very interesting in what they were talking about and how they were doing it. But again, it was aimed primarily at gateway lights, the streets and stuff.
Yeah.
And then ours comes in, and they sent that other information out that kind of affects us in an agreement. I think, we need to maybe take a look at that, maybe get a feel for what the committee, I was going to mention it at the board meeting.
Is there a cost to do it? In other words, if we were to say, yeah, let's go ahead, we're gonna do this, we're gonna keep the 3,000 in the neighborhoods, we're gonna keep we're gonna do 4,000 on Pebblebrook, do your thing.
I didn't hear
Did
them
we get a bill
talking
for that?
about
I thought
about
it
a
was.
cost to
I-
do
no,
that.
I thought
If
there
we
was
could
a
change the
charge.
lights and some other stuff, there would be a cost. But I'm not totally sure.
So I asked Eric, and he said that there are no upfront additional costs for the conversion.
So why wouldn't they just do it?
Do it.
Why?
Because- Because it's your neighborhood and it's the district's paying the bill, that just like you're a property owner, you
Is
get your.
it true? Maybe you would know because we've been at this question, we've been asking that almost like every meeting when the lighting comes up. Do we pay a single per pole fee monthly for the lights, regardless of the electric,
Fixed price.
a fixed price?
Yeah, I was told we pay 35,000 a year.
I think
We have
we
a
read
fixed price.
something in the budget.
I'll pull your FPL bill that we pay and see exactly what is accounted for. From my understanding, you guys are on the turnkey maintenance program with them. So it's like a long-term lease, and most municipalities are on that.
But you
So
don't pay a separate usage.
you pay your usage and then like a lease on the same bill. But I'll pull your bill. Let me make note of that. I'll pull Stoneybrook's bill and I can have that for your guys' next meeting.
We've got, as of June 30th, we had budgeted $35,000 for the lights. And so far, we've used 30,593. So we got 4,400 left for this year. I didn't divide that out by the number of months we have, but that number of 30 to 35, I think, has been fairly consistent
Well,
Our
FPL did send out, they got approval to increase their rates, and I think it was effective January 1st of this calendar year to increase their rates. So,
That might be a change. Yeah.
and that could be why you're closing your gap towards the end of the fiscal.
So I think
The
there,
rates go up, we definitely need to get LED. But we use less. We changed out all around the clubhouse and everything. It's all LED now. We changed the tennis court, the volume, everything.
so what would you recommend, Chelsea, to be our next course of action if we wanted to start moving forward on
Well,
that?
I would say have consensus from this board. If it's the whole community, part of the community, a section of the community, what we can do is we can reach out to FPL, say this is the desire. Is this possible? Yes or no? And we could, they said it's roughly 6 to 8 weeks, I believe, from the time it gets signed to do the conversion, but then I mean, if a hurricane comes, that could throw a kink in their plans.
Is there communities that they could say that, they've done 3,000 in this and 4,000, KW lights there that we could go look at? And see
Yeah,
how-
if
what they
that's some
look like?
information you guys want me to get.
I'd like to see it. I don't know about anybody else.
I know if you go down to the beach, I can tell you the side streets were converted.
I'd like to go at night
did
though, to
that.
see what, how it looks,
Now, on
how
the,
it lights the street.
What have the residents been saying? I've only lived in this area. I mean, do they say it's too dark? It's too
Along
light?
Pebble
What do
Brook,
they say?
I hear negatives on Pebble Brook.
Dark on Pebble on the main drag, yeah.
And you get around the side streets, there's not as many trees, and that's what hurts us on Pebble Brook, the trees. And that's why when the tree guys come, they're gonna be cutting those out as best they can, so there's more light. But all the light poles along the back really don't have any, they're pretty wide open.
So it sounds to me almost like you're saying we might go with a really high one down the main drag and a level lower in the regular neighborhoods.
I can
That's
tell
what I
you,
would do.
I can tell you guys that I know Gateway Greens just signed a conversion agreement to get theirs to LED, so they may be a couple weeks ahead of you all.
Oh,
But that's something to keep in mind, but I'll try to get some examples.
okay.
Oh, looky there, look at that government efficiency, got the FPL bill. Man, they're good. Yep, it's about 3,100. I'll have to pull that exact bill and see what the breakdown is on it, but yes, you're good.
It used to be like 2,900.
A high pressure sodium, it does burn more energy, so. But I'll try to get some examples. Like I said, if you go down to the beach, go to the side streets, that's 3,000 Kelvin.
Oh, okay.
I think, one thing that, be nice to get some input from the community, even maybe from the HOA board, what their feeling is. I was gonna bring it up at the
Monday night meeting.
Monday night meeting, that we're looking at this. What is the board's feeling as far as changing to LED lights? And I don't anticipate any negativity on that. I think everybody's looking for more bright lights. Again, Pebble Brook's the big road.
Yeah.
And then the side stuff there, I think if we're gonna change, we need to change everything around.
Well,
someplace.
my experience too, the brighter you go, the higher chance you have for light intrusion.
Right.
I'll tell you, down at the roundabout by the high school, we have some neighbors there that those bright ones that are there, granted, the height makes a big difference, but err on the side of caution is my best. I've been doing this for quite a few years, and nobody likes light intrusion
Exactly.
into their own home.
No, that's tough.
So with the light poles by someone's house, if you have 4,000 versus a 3,000.
And no, I would definitely not put 4,000 in the
I'm just
neighborhood.
saying,
Yeah.
3,000 may be
4,000 's
too
on
much.
Pebble Brook.
You have to see where the lights are,
Well, I
how
think
they
we only have-
focus.
But I think there's only 2 choices, right?
I don't know.
they
I
don't
thought there was
they-
selections on how the lights would be,
A few.
focused, right? So they don't have to necessarily focus towards the house, but maybe towards the street.
And there's shielding options
there's-
available.
Yeah,
So
so.
do you have the?
That's something we might want to do.
39,
On everyone that's
73
on the
watts,
street.
4,000,
Shield
3,000,
or a black
3,000.
panel
Yeah,
on the
3,000 or
backside that
4,000
they-
seems to be the thing on this
Who would
sheet
provide
here. So,
Look at that, those 2 front bedrooms, they're
Exactly.
gonna be lit up like daytime.
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that we have to be concerned about, is the back roads, the side roads compared to Pebble Brook. Because again, Pebble Brook, there's people on that roadway, on those paths, all hours
Yeah.
anymore.
Well,
So I think we need to have some light out there. So.
two, I'm gonna bore you guys, but there's this thing, there's eye fatigue, but then there's also when the eye goes from a bright area to a dark area and vice versa, that transition sometimes can be a blind spot for folks. And you don't want too much of bright, dark, bright,
Right,
dark, bright, dark.
right.
So something else to keep in mind when
Yeah.
you're deciding on what to do.
Okay.
All things being equal, what would you do?
I would listen to what FPL recommends and
Yeah.
go with that.
Absolutely.
That,
They do it for a living. That's their
Yeah,
business.
that's kind of my thought. Okay. Any other questions? I don't think we need to make any decisions on this right now. I think we got the information, stuff to read about it, and we'll see what some of the input.
Yeah,
is,
maybe we
what
can get
people-
some pictures of the fixtures, what they'll look like.
Yeah.
I'll try to get
Have the
some.
Down ones.
I'll try to see if he knows of any other comps in the near vicinity and try to get it to you guys sooner than later.
How do you plan on getting input from the folks?
The only way really is going to the board meeting and see what the board people feel like. And then we have that coffee on Tuesday. We can talk to some people there and see what they're interested in. And I haven't heard all the complaints about the lights up in the trees. I really like the lights that kind of are on the pole, but they come out a little bit. It stays away from the trees a little bit and puts the light more where it's supposed to be instead of right underneath the trees. So some of those things that we're gonna have to take a look at, maybe even have to move a pole or something. Because we got one tree between the Stone Valley things that's in the trees. And I don't know, I've been watching, trying to see how we can trim that out, to get more light from that one out onto the thing when we do our tree trimming. So I think that there's ways that we can do
We
something.
should have done that when we put the bike path in.
Huh?
When we did the bike path and we had to do all that tree work, we should have identified the trees that were interfering with the light and when the guy take them down then.
Exactly. Yeah. I screwed up. What can I say?
Oh, I'm not throwing anybody under the bus.
We didn't have any complaints about the 10 trees we
What did
took
they say?
down.
Hindsight is 20/20,
Yeah.
right? Looking back
Yeah.
on it now
Yeah.
from what we did.
But, well, the reason we took the trees out because they're the ones that are tearing up the pathway.
Correct.
Yeah. Now we have bushes that are tearing up the pathway. Okay. Where's my notes?
Y'all are giving me a lot of homework.
Oh, yeah, no problem. We can handle it. Okay. Anybody have any other comments? Don't have anything else on our agenda. Next meeting is scheduled for the 14th of September.
Angela
Well,
has something.
okay. We're gonna go around and
Warren.
make comments.
Angela.
No, if you're gonna talk, you gotta come up here. We're not gonna listen to you.
Angela Sullivan, Gemstone Court. Just a couple of questions for the upcoming board meeting that we have to have everything on our agenda in by Friday. Just wanted to see if the approval of the minutes, since Eric
We'll
is
get that
of town,
out. Make sure you read your book this time so
Yeah.
you don't,
It was slid behind.
Georgia
us.
will have it in the mail before we leave here today.
Perfect. And the other thing is on the review of the CDD systems, facilities operation and maintenance agreement. Is that going to be on our agenda for discussion since it's a main discussion here today for HOA?
I don't know. That's you guys. Yeah. We're looking at it, but we're waiting to get more information from the attorney and stuff. But I would say that your HOA needs to somehow make sure everybody at least reads it and see what it is. 'Cause I think everybody on there now is familiar with it.
And I should have it in my email from
But we need to review
the
it
next couple of weeks.
because we're going to be discussing it.
Yeah,
with
if
this
you don't
committee.
have
No, it's not gonna be, it's not on the agenda, but it's not.
Doesn't need to be.
Oh, by the way,
I don't think it's that quick, but we need to get the
it's more
attorney and all that
information.
kind of official stuff.
Okay, so we're going to hold off. I just wanted to make sure. And the other thing on the sidewalk issue that was brought up, and I just listened to what Chris had to say. And not that I want to get rid of the Stoneybrook Advisory Committee because I'm a previous member of the committee. I know that there's always a conflict on just trying to get the communication involved. We had office turnover and the communication on the sidewalk issue. It's the Florida statute that we're having to abide by. It just seems like getting things more productively done. It just seems to, there's always a roadblock on that. So that was just my suggestion on moving forward. What was the other one? On the light proposal that we would be paying the extra electric on that particular one, is there a warranty included in his proposal? The one that went through today on the uplighting?
Yeah.
I just didn't
Yeah,
hear
there
anything
is.
about a warranty.
Yeah, there's a warranty.
Okay,
I want to say 1 year warranty.
okay.
I know I read it in here somewhere.
So that was my only question.
Yeah, it's on the back page.
Thank you.
Warranties on all materials, hardware for 1 year. and free of defects.
We can't see what you see. Thank you.
I have one item to bring up as we go
Go ahead.
around the table.
Go ahead.
Follow up to last month, we sort of had a blast go out on at least one of the Facebook Stoneybrook pages about the driveways that were crunched, and they asked people to get in touch if there were issues. Any feedback on that? Did anybody know?
We had we had 4 driveways. To my knowledge, we've not had any callbacks into the office on anything else. The other driveways that some people were saying were damaged were scratches and stuff that there's no way to fix. The 4 driveways that were damaged were repaired by the vendor. He did a pretty good job of matching, some of the stuff, and he may still be working with the 4th one. I don't know. Now, as far as we know,
We're close to closing the book on it.
yeah, it's closed.
Okay.
It's closed, yeah.
That's it.
Vendor come right out, shocked me when he come out and said, well, I'm gonna do it today, the way he went. So he got it going, yeah, so. Eric?
I would like some line item in the meeting where we go over previous projects we approved to see if they've been finalized. Say the sliding door for the gatehouse.
Mhm.
I have no idea if it's done.
No, yeah, I know it's not done. What's the latest status?
Or the status on it, or,
Anybody know?
taking the tree down in the center
No, that
circle.
was the problem that we moved the money. They'll get that done now.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah, I
the
understand.
status of all the projects we approved.
No question.
I think to help facilitate that moving forward, designating a point person to oversee that with our forms and stuff that we're trying to produce, a volunteer from this committee, or if it's the HOA or whomever, be the point person to follow up and stay on top of those things. That really helps be productive and things don't get thrown off the radar.
We still have some organization to do within here for people to do some stuff. I think one of the things that we would like to do is to have a point person on each project, that even if the HOA is doing it, that they have their point person can contact you, for example, and you can bring it back to us, so they don't have, so we have someone representing us there, not to control the project, but to answer questions and be someone coming back. And that's what we want to do with, as we move on with that stuff, so that we have the project. Make sure we have a leader who's going to be overseeing the whole project and making those decisions, and then someone from here that person can come to, and he has one person to give answers to. So yeah, that's kind of the project to do that. So.
Yeah, I had questions for Chelsea.
Shoot.
I was looking at the budget and like there was a couple bills for like Home Depot and several $100s. Can I go to somebody and ask them, what is this for?
Yeah, if you send customer care, send an email to customer care, there's like 6 of us that look at that daily, hourly, it seems like. If you have those particular ones, you're referencing the Stoneybrook's, within the Stoneybrook's budget. Yeah, if you just send the email with those line items and the dollar amounts, or if it's the Home Depot, whatever it is, we'll get you an answer.
And the other thing, I don't mean any offense to this at all. Like we pay for part of the help and their benefits, like $11,000 or whatever it was. The number's not, like when you come to these meetings and you do all this other work, do we get additional charges?
So that has actually come up at the board level recently and with Pelican. And this is something we're going to be monitoring our time, staff time, and seeing. Sometimes it's easier to sit in these meetings and address the issues now because I'm going to be getting them behind that computer either way. So we're going to be tracking our staff time and how much time I believe Stoneybrook, you're part of the 4, I'm learning all these, 4. I believe a percentage of our time is part of that fund. So ultimately you'd be paying for it. But if the time becomes excessive, then we'll have to reevaluate. But Laura and I, as we're the only 2 staff liaisons right now, we're going to be tracking our time, being involved with these committees. Understanding from a staff perspective, from my perspective, it's needed right now for both committees, just to clean things up a little bit and help streamline processes to save time in the future.
I think we have administration for like yourself and Laura, I think it's 5%.
Yeah.
Yeah, and George is 10%.
Yeah.
What works out, I think, is just under $12,000 on the
Yeah,
next
that's what I
budget,
saw.
on the next
Yeah.
budget, yeah. I'm not sure what it was this time, so.
A follow-up question that you know about already, because we've spoken about it. I put 2 requests or whatever into customer service
Mhm.
for a hole in Bluestone in the middle of the street. It had been patched at some time because it's a nice like 30 by 60 rectangle. And now in the center of it, there's a round pothole and it's a 1/2 inch deep all the way. I took pictures of it and I sent it into them. I spoke to Angela and she goes, well, did you get a response? I said, no, I didn't hear anything. But she goes, well, usually you get a response. You better send it again. So I took another picture in daylight and I sent it again and still never got a response.
When did you go? When did you take the picture?
Originally, it's probably been 4 weeks and the last time might have been 2 weeks ago.
It was
I mean, I can
repaired-
check my emails.
It was repaired today. We've had some, again,
Gotta go on your street.
cleaning,
I didn't go- I-
clarifying processes and, you know, we had to go by the, I won't bore you with the process. It's been repaired.
Oh,
So.
okay. You better, you
Angela-
better reply to my email.
So, for those who know, the easiest way to get things done at Gateway is go to customer care.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Because when they comes in, Julie or
But-
Georgia get it, and they get it to the person
Yeah.
that's gonna go. If you try to address it yourself to a person, that person may be on vacation and won't see it for 10 days. So send it to customer care,
Yep.
that takes care of it, and they're usually pretty responsive.
So thank you for the feedback. I think there's an automatic response that goes back if you send something, but we'll make sure to follow up and
Yeah,
say,
previously I had
received
gotten
and-
a response, and I'm like, why is it weird? Why I didn't get a response? Maybe they just,
And if you need any public records, they get them to you right away.
Warren knows.
the public records king.
Tom? Nothing? Tom?
The last meeting, there was a talk about the gatehouse, and there was a number of issues down there, and Chris, you were going to go down there with our new maintenance guy to see what issues he could fix or take care of. I don't know what it was, ants, and some, a bunch of other things that were wrong with that.
In addition to spraying for bugs himself, we also added it onto our vendor that treats the clubhouse and stuff. We told them, when you're here, spray out there too.
Was there any other
I
issues?
hope we
with the
don't need,
clubhouse,
we
though?
didn't need special permission for that, but.
Like besides we know that the doors getting replaced, what other things that were, there
He's
were
probably-
problems there?
He's probably gonna paint in there. I don't know his exact workload. I haven't spoken to him. And unfortunately, Eric is out today, tomorrow, and Friday for a little mini vacation, but I'll find out.
I think there was some
He's-
electrical.
He's
Yeah,
very
so what are the
proactive
issues
about
with
doing
it?
things though.
It's,
I talked to him yesterday.
is there a list of issues that, that were created by inspecting it, and then what issues were fixed? So that we know it was done.
I talked to him yesterday for a few minutes. He was down at the gatehouse and I was down there getting some information. And he said he was doing this and he had all these different things on schedule. It all comes down to his workload at the gatehouse. Within Stone.
I get all that. I just wanted to know, did anyone make a
Yeah.
list? And
It looks a
what
little
are
bit- it
the
looks better
issues
than
and
it has
when-
been.
Have they been
Wow.
fixed? That's all. I don't want the building to go into disrepair or anything like that. It becomes more expensive. That's why.
Oh, yeah, that won't happen. And yeah, I know he's going to, he even volunteered to come in on the midnight shift and paint. He goes, I'll paint the whole inside on a midnight shift when they're not that busy.
That's good. That's good.
That's it.
Okay,
I was wondering about the slider.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, that's been ordered, my understanding.
I sent an email to Eric. I know he'll check his emails tonight
Okay.
and he'll respond to me. Now, if I get that answer, then I gotta send that answer to Georgia so that she can send it
Yeah.
to you.
So this-
Or I'll take a piece of paper and put a note on the window of the slider saying, coming in 3 weeks.
Okay, anything else?
I do before you
Chelsea,
dismiss.
yeah.
So administratively, we're making quite a few changes, setting up policies and procedures. One of those things that Laura actually started before I came on board was implementing an agenda management system. And so we plan on going live with that system September 1st, which transparency, talking about, the attachments and supporting documentation that this board gets, as well as the Board of Supervisors, all of that entire board book with all of the agenda items and supporting documentation would be available online for the public's view. So bear with us as we work out some of these kinks. We've been trying to do it on the back end, but we officially go live September 1st. So you, moving forward, would be getting a link to the agenda book instead of all of the attachments. And so what we're trying to do is trying to get away from paper and have it digital. That's why we have all these computer screens in front of everybody, and we can go one by one. But there's that, and then, like I mentioned earlier, some forms and things like that. Again, we're always looking to improve. If you have comments, feedback, you know, hey, I emailed customer care, didn't get a response back. That's good feedback. You know, we need to tweak that. So just have some patience with us, and I appreciate your time, and I'll be getting a lot of these items out to you guys for your next meeting, and then some of them earlier than that, so you can go look at some streetlights. So,
Maybe when you speak with the FPL people, you can ask them about painting the poles or if anything can be done, because they're supposed to be, well, I guess it's supposed to be black. I don't know what they're supposed to be, but most of them, it's silver coming through. I guess the paint is coming off.
It's blotchy. It's blotchy.
Yeah.
my experience with FPL is cosmetics are least of their worries, but I can make a mention to them.
Probably if we change the lights and stuff, that'd be the time, you know, when they want to only have to touch them one time instead of
Yeah.
coming back all the time.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Okay.
Last part of that,
Oh.
with that agenda management system, the format of your agendas is going to change as well. So just, it's going to be close to this, but we're going to try to compartmentalize it a little bit better. So,
Okay, well, Chelsea will be here for all of our meetings.
until I delegate.
For one, I'm very glad you were here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's always.
That's a learning for me too.
Especially with the number of changes that are occurring between her and Laura and some of the other stuff that's going on. Just makes you people here. Yeah. Okay.
Move to
Appreciate
adjourn.
everybody's time.
Move to adjourn.
Jen's
We
ready to
got a
go.
lot of stuff out, so
We have a motion and a second to adjourn.
we need a motion to adjourn.
I did.
She
Oh,
made
she
the
did?
motion,
I'm
I
sorry.
seconded.
Tom probably said.
And then second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Go home. Yeah, thank you.
Do you have a daughter? Your daughter Sierra.
Last meeting.
I know her from
Notice.
Poland.
Correct.